In the 5th year of my secret crush on Barry, he posted a looking for marriage moment on his social media. I want to get married. I like someone who is sweet and quiet. That night, I mustered up the courage and asked him, would you consider choosing me? The man glanced at me and sneered. He said, actually, this post was meant for Wallace to see. All these years, I've only ever seen you as a sister. After that day, we started giving each other the cold shoulder. I stopped going to see him, and I stopped liking him. In the end, it was Barry who apologized first. Is it really worth ignoring me over such a trivial matter? What if I marry you? But I already have a boyfriend. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. When I saw that post on Moments, Barry and I had actually not been in touch for a long time. The reason was simple. Half a month ago, he went through a breakup though. To be honest, it wasn't exactly a rare occurrence. Since I've known him, he's been constantly falling in and out of love with the radiant, the adorable, the enchantingly charming, yet not a single one ever made him pause. But that night, perhaps because I happened to call him, I asked, Barry, I heard you bought another antique a couple of days ago. Which girl is it for this time, that you'd spend so lavishly? He paused for a moment after hearing it, then chuckled softly under his breath. Guess, I can't guess. There are too many girls around him. Seeing my silence, he sighed again, with a hint of coaxing. Virginia, do you want to see me? I hesitated. Now, the place I live is more than 20 kilometers away from the bar where he was. With trembling hands, I put on makeup, changed into a dress, and went to meet him. That night, we slept together. I was the one who kissed him first. I want to try it. We were high school classmates. We also shared a desk for 3 years. After graduation, we kept in touch. He helped me integrate into his social circle, connected me with people, and planned my career. His friends often said I was the evergreen by his side, not as beautiful as a rose, nor as enchanting as cherry blossoms. But I never left. I've liked him for so many years, watching him lose his heart to others time and time again. I can't bear it anymore. I want to take the initiative just once. He had a bit to drink. Hesitated for a moment, then wrapped his arm around my waist. It was unclear if he was drunk or not when he asked, do you have someone you like? I tensed up instinctively. I retorted, what do you think? He gave a faint smile, his voice a bit hoarse. Yeah, I get it. To my surprise, his movements were actually a bit clumsy. At daybreak, he stood on the balcony smoking. I walked over, just about to call his name. When he turned around, he said, Virginia. Let's both calm down and not contact each other for now. Let me think it over carefully. I said okay. Then, half a month later, I saw this post of his on social media, saw this moment on the social feed. I subconsciously matched each word to myself. Just then, my college roommate Reva called. Back in college, she had met Barry, because at that time Barry took great care of me, his old classmate. He often had people bring me gifts, some expensive, some cheap, all according to his whim. One year, I even received a dried fallen leaf. Along with this leaf came a handwritten card from him. His handwriting was bold and flowing. Autumn is here. Care to have a meal? That day we ate the most famous hot pot outside my school, and he was so spicy that tears streamed down his face. Virginia, I traveled all this way to see you, and this is how you treat me. At that time, I was in City S, and he was in City J. Despite the long distance, he came to see me every year. I told Reva about what happened that night. She paused for a moment after hearing it. Then go find him quickly. He must have posted that for you to see. After all these years of knowing him, aside from you, there doesn't seem to be any particularly quiet and well-behaved girl around him, right? I thought about it all night. I looked at the last conversation between me and Barry on my phone screen. It was from that morning. He sent me a voice message, a full 37 seconds. Breakfast is on the table. Last night, you seemed in a bit of pain, so I bought you some ointment. Remember to apply it later. I'm leaving now. I didn't reply. After that, just as he said, we never contacted each other again. I thought for a moment and sent a message to Reva. I'm going to find him. She replied with a very cute emoji. Go for it. May the destined lovers be united. And then I went. That night was the first time we had seen each other in half a month. He sat on the sofa and glanced at me lazily, as if he had forgotten that he had just said he needed to think carefully about our relationship. He said, Virginia, you misunderstood. This WeChat moment of mine is for Wallace to see. Barry's friend happened to come looking for him. He came upstairs and happened to hear those 2 sentences Barry said. He asked, what misunderstanding? Oh, by the way, Virginia, you don't know who Wallace is, do you? Saying this, he walked up to me. He pulled out a photo. Here, take a look. Isn't she beautiful? I glanced at it and froze in place. When I first heard the name, I thought it might just be a coincidence. But after seeing this photo, I can confirm I know her. Probably Barry doesn't remember either. Wallace went to the same high school as us, and she had already confessed to him back then. But at that time, she wasn't pretty, she had short hair, a face full of freckles, and was a bit dark-skinned. After she found out I was Barry's deskmate, she even cornered me in an alley after school. Fate can be so strangely coincidental. I thought about it, wanting to tell him all this. But then I thought, people can change, what if Wallace has already become a better person? I took a deep breath. I'll stop thinking about these things. I asked, what kind of girl is she? Arthur picked up an orange from the table, peeling it as he told me, this girl. She just came back from abroad and has quite a proud temper. Barry has been chasing her for half a month, but she stubbornly refuses to agree, saying she doesn't believe a playboy can change his ways. Barry wasn't convinced, so he directly posted a moment on social media, deliberately using 2 words completely opposite to her, just to provoke her. That's when I realized that social media post was for her. It had nothing to do with me. The girl he liked came from a well-off family, proud, beautiful, and only wanted a love that was wholehearted. I instinctively asked, when did they meet? Just half a month ago. That day Barry went to the pharmacy to buy medicine and happened to see this girl with a sprained ankle, still enduring the pain while squatting by the roadside to feed a cat. He found it really interesting. I froze for a moment. It seems she might have really changed a lot. The former Wallace would never have had such kindness to feed a stray cat. Arthur raised an eyebrow, about to say more. Barry walked over and kicked him. Damn, can't even eating shut you up. Get the hell out of here now. Arthur didn't understand. Virginia is one of us. You two are so close. What's the big deal if I talk to her? Besides, Wallace is the first girl that made you think about marriage. Barry's face darkened. He stared at me. You, I asked him directly. It was that morning, wasn't it? That morning we parted, after he bought me medicine. He then met Wallace. Barry nodded, his eyes dim and unreadable. Understood. As I was leaving, Arthur pressed an orange into my hand. He raised an eyebrow. It's pretty sweet. Give it a try. By the way, are you interested in dating? My cousin, super handsome, is looking to meet someone right now. Barry frowned and gave Arthur a cold glance. Shut up. After saying that, he lowered his gaze, looked at me, and his voice softened. He was joking. Don't take it seriously. I nodded. His gaze paused for a moment, then he asked out of the blue, how about you call me brother from now on? I looked at him. I smiled slightly. In the end, I didn't say yes, nor did I say no. Ignoring his figure blocking my way, I picked up my bag from the sofa, turned around, and left. After going out, I threw the orange in my hand into the trash can. Just after throwing it away, my phone buzzed. I opened it and was surprised to see a message from Barry. Don't like it. Why did you throw it away? My steps halted as I typed on my phone. Don't like it. As soon as I got in the car, I received a call from Arthur. He lowered his voice, sounding a bit cautious. Did you have a fight with Barry? I thought about it. It's not really a fight. Just a sudden realization that even if I abandon my self-respect and degrade myself to the dust, I will never be in his eyes. He would love Wallace, but he would never love Virginia. No, Arthur sighed and spoke. You have no idea. I've never seen him so angry before. Just now, he actually smashed the vase he bought not long ago. Do you know how much that cost? I'm heartbroken just thinking about it. My breath hitched for a moment. Was it because of me that he lost his composure like this? But clearly, I was overthinking it, because the next moment, I heard Arthur exclaim in surprise, "Oh, I misunderstood you. It's because of Wallace, who left a comment under Barry's post, wishing him to find a good match soon. So that's how it is. I shouldn't have been so presumptuous." At the end of the conversation, Arthur suddenly changed his tone. By the way, about that blind date I arranged for you with my cousin, just pretend I never mentioned it. I just called him to set up a meeting with you, and he actually told me I was crazy and to get lost. Honestly, how can he be so ungrateful? I couldn't help but laugh. Alright, I got it. After that day, Barry called me twice. He said he wanted to treat me to a meal. Each time, my answer was that I was too busy. During that time, he hit quite a few walls at Wallace's place. After being rejected by me, he couldn't help but speak without thinking. Everyone's so busy these days. I remember you used to be available at a moment's notice. I replied to him very seriously. You said it yourself, that was before. He was furious and sneered coldly. Fine, then let's not contact each other anymore. I said, okay, so, we really stopped contacting each other, until the day I had a fever. I called my supervisor to ask for leave. After taking some more medicine, I fell asleep. Coincidentally, that day Barry happened to pass by near my company and ran into a colleague I often have meals with. He frowned. Virginia, is she really so busy that she can't even eat? My colleague still didn't know what had happened between me and Barry during this time, and casually replied, she took sick leave today. Didn't you know? Of course he didn't know. Barry immediately called me twice. but I was sleeping too soundly and didn't hear it. He drove to my house. I opened the door and saw a gloomy face. He looked me up and down for a moment, then cursed, "Why haven't you been this obedient before? You really stopped contacting me just because I said so. Look at you. Burning up like this, and you still refuse to apologize to me." I lay there with my eyes open, my face flushed and burning. He walked over, scooped me up in his arms, and began to comfort me. "Go to the hospital. Be good." After that, he didn't do anything else and took care of me in the hospital for 2 days. He cooked for me himself, knowing I have a sweet tooth, always adding an extra spoonful of sugar to the porridge. He's the kind of person who values cleanliness the most. But when I was too sick and threw up all over him, he just waved it off casually, saying, "This outfit is too ugly anyway. I've been wanting to get rid of it." Once, I woke up in the middle of the night. I saw him sitting by my side, looking down at his phone. To avoid disturbing me, he had dimmed the screen to its lowest brightness. His hand rested halfway on the bed, and he instinctively tucked the corner of my blanket, asking, "Feeling better?" Suddenly, I wanted to try one more time. So I held his hand, nearly choking up, and asked him, "Barry, do you really like her that much? Can you turn around and look at me?" He was taken aback for a moment but didn't push my hand away. Instead, he held my hand back and said, "Go to sleep first, we'll talk tomorrow." But the next day, as soon as I woke up, I saw him on the phone. I don't know what was said on the other end. His throat moved. "Wait for me. I'm coming to find you right now." At that moment, I just knew. I'm completely done for. Not long after, Barry walked up to me, crouched down, and spoke to me. "The discharge procedures are all taken care of, and I've packed your clothes. After you're discharged, remember to take your medicine properly." I nodded, then he left. I carried the things home by myself, and after arriving, I took a shower and went to sleep. When I woke up, I opened that bag and saw the medicine inside. There was also a Barry handwritten note with precautions. He had clearly written down how many times to take each medicine per day and how many pills each time. I looked at his handwriting and suddenly burst into tears. I began to learn to let go of Barry. I no longer reply to his messages instantly, nor do I frequently click on his profile picture and then zone out for a long time. He also acted as if nothing had happened before. Sometimes they would also send me little gifts they bought on a whim. They would often check in on me, asking if I had taken my medicine on time and eaten properly, but we rarely saw each other again. Until that day, I realized I had never properly thanked him since being discharged from the hospital. I sent him a message, "Want to have dinner together tonight?" He didn't reply. The restaurant I had booked called me several times. I had no choice but to cancel the reservation. Then I made myself a bowl of plain noodles. Halfway through the meal, I casually opened the chat page with Barry. I was about to let him know, if he was busy, I'd just treat him to a meal another time. But as soon as I typed 2 words, I noticed he had changed his profile picture. You can tell it's something only couples would use. He had been using that profile picture for 3 or 4 years, and I was the one who helped him pick it. Through the screen, my eyes felt a little sore. I couldn't help but rub them, and the chopsticks in my hand fell to the floor. That bowl of noodles, in the end, was only half eaten. It wasn't until the next day that Barry sent me a reply. He said, "Busy lately, maybe next time." I didn't reply to Barry's message right away. Instead, I instinctively opened his social media feed, half an hour ago. He posted a photo. It was Wallace's profile. Her eyelashes were long, her nose was well-shaped, and she had dimples when she smiled. He also deleted that matchmaking post from his moments. I zoomed in on that photo again, stared at it for a while, then exited and replied to his message, "Okay, I wish you happiness. Can we still be friends in the future?" Yeah, I could tell that he was serious this time. It was different from every time he had been in love before. He genuinely liked Wallace. Later, I heard that Barry had deleted quite a few people, ex-girlfriends, first loves. Not a single one was left. He stopped sending me messages too. Arthur told me, "Barry has really settled down now." I begged him for a whole week to come out and hang out, but he just wouldn't agree. I said nothing. Instead, he changed the subject. "The day after tomorrow is Barry's birthday. I've prepared a gift for him. Can you help me deliver it? Why don't you give it to him yourself? I have something to do that day, so I won't be going." Arthur didn't believe it. "Barry's birthday, you've never missed one. Really not coming this time?" "I'm serious." He sighed. "All right then. Actually, I had nothing going on that day. On the contrary, I just finished the project I was working on and can take a few days off to rest properly." That day, I originally planned to watch 2 movies at home, but around 8 p.m., I received a call from Reva. She was crying and said she had been scammed out of tens of thousands of yuan by an online fraudster. Let me go out and keep her company, then gave me an address. I took a look. This place Barry and the others had never been to, so we definitely wouldn't run into them. So I went. Just after getting out of the car, standing in the cold wind, I received a call from Barry. he said. I received the gift. I quite like it. That's good. His voice paused. Virginia. Don't you have anything else to say to me? I thought for a moment. Happy birthday. He smiled. What kind of sincerity is there in saying that through a phone? I stayed silent for a while. I have something else to do. I'm hanging up. Reva came out from inside and led me into the private room. I played for about an hour or so, then went out to pay the bill. Just as I opened my phone, someone bumped into me. I looked up, saw who it was, and froze. The other person stared at me and raised their eyes slightly. He smirked sarcastically. It's you. I heard you've been by his side all these years. Back then, when I had people beat you up twice, I thought you'd learned your lesson. Virginia, you're really pathetic. I was trembling with anger. You, halfway through my words. She suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. Her head also hit the counter beside her. I quickly crouched down to help her up. But someone came over from not far away and pushed me aside. I stood frozen in place. I saw a group of people coming out of the private room. Virginia, what are you doing here? Yeah, didn't you say you were busy? Why did sister-in-law fall? Damn, her forehead is swollen. Virginia, you didn't push her, did you? I spoke up. I just finished checking out here and happened to run into her. It wasn't me. Before I could finish, Barry cut me off in a low voice. Enough, I froze. He looked up coldly, glanced at me. He had never looked at me with such an expression before. Mockery, disappointment, and something else that was hard to put into words. I instinctively bit my lip. Just as he was about to speak, Wallace sighed and said, Forget it, Barry, take me to the hospital first. He nodded, picked her up, and walked past me. I still wanted to explain, but he suddenly spoke. Today, I really wanted to see you. That night, I sent Barry a message. I wanted to tell him that it really wasn't what he thought it was, and the girl he liked wasn't as good as he thought she was. But my message didn't go through. He blocked me. I called him, but no one answered. I had no choice but to call Arthur. It rang for a long time before he finally answered, and he said, Virginia, how could you do such a thing? I wasn't, Arthur tutted. Just now, Barry and your sister-in-law were arguing over there. We all heard it. You like him, and you two even. Slept together, right? I thought it was strange too. There was no need for you to target your sister-in-law. But if you like Barry, then it all makes sense. Don't call me anymore from now on. I guess I misjudged you. At this moment, my hands were trembling. I didn't expect Barry to spill the beans, and at that time, I did have ill intentions. I was the one who crossed the line first. I have no way to defend myself. Then, a somewhat deep voice suddenly came from over there. Arthur. Who are you talking to? I'm heading out for a bit. Can you look after Wallace for me? All right, you go. I'll take care of your sister-in-law. After saying that, Arthur hung up the phone. I held the phone, sitting dazed on the sofa for a long, long time before finally tapping the screen to turn it on. I deleted the contact information of Barry and all his friends. Then I tapped open the chat page with my boss. 2 days ago, he asked me, there's an opportunity for an overseas assignment. A rare chance. Want to go? At the time, I said I wanted to think it over. And now, I typed 2 words. Damn. After replying to the message, I made myself a bowl of noodles. This time, I finished every last bite. Rain fell outside the window, and in a daze, I remembered that year when I was 18 in a narrow alley. Wallace slapped me twice across the face. She looked down on me arrogantly and asked, Virginia, look at yourself. Dressed so cheaply, aside from being a little pretty and having decent grades, what else do you have to show for yourself? Sitting next to Barry, are you even worthy? You'd better stay away from him. After venting her anger, she left. Before this, I had also heard some things about Wallace. She acts like this toward anyone she dislikes, without any restraint, and yet no one can do anything about it. Who made her family rich? So I endured it. I crouched down, picked up the books they had trampled into disarray, and when I looked up, I saw Barry. He walked over, pulled me up by the arm, his eyes filled with suppressed anger. Virginia, who bullied you? I looked up, silently gazing at him, the young man holding my hand with a firm grip. Before this, I had never really looked at him properly. I was a true bookworm. But suddenly, in that moment, I began to like him. After that day, I don't know what Barry did. But not long after, Wallace went abroad and never appeared in my life again. And now, after all these years, she has come before me again. Her dream came true, and she finally became Barry's girlfriend. The day of my departure was quickly set. The day before I left, while I was packing my luggage, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw Barry's assistant, Chen. The look he gave me became quite intriguing. Mr. Shen sent me to find you. What's up? He raised his hand and handed a stack of medical bills to me. The medical expenses have already been covered by Mr. Shen, but Ms. Jiang is a woman of principle. She said that everyone should bear the consequences of their actions, and the person who pushed her should pay. Mr. Shen couldn't persuade her otherwise, so he sent me here. It seems, Barry must have already noticed that I deleted him. I glanced at the thing in my hand. It wasn't really expensive, just over 2,000 yuan. But I just found it absurd. Assistant Chen urged, "Hurry up. President Shen is still waiting downstairs." I froze. Barry is here too. I put away the things in my hands, then smiled and said to the man in front of me, "Then please tell him that I have something to do today and can't take the time to carefully review these documents, so I can't give them to you. Tell him to come pick them up in person tomorrow." Assistant Chen was about to speak when his phone rang. He quickly answered the call. I heard Barry's voice. "What's going on? Is she unwilling to give it?" Assistant Chen glanced at me. "She said she has something to do today and can't review those documents, so she wants you to come in person to pick them up tomorrow." After the words were spoken, Barry remained silent for a long time. Just when I thought he wouldn't agree, he spoke up. "All right, we'll do as she says." After Assistant Chen left, I stood by the window and glanced down. I saw Barry. He was looking down, staring at his phone. I watched for a while, then looked away and went back to packing. "I've booked my flight for tomorrow morning." Tomorrow, Barry won't be able to see me even if he comes here. The next day, right after the plane landed and I arrived at the hotel, I received a phone call. It was from an unfamiliar number. I hung up, but he didn't give up and called several more times. Only then did I answer. "Who is this?" The other person laughed in frustration. "Virginia, are you messing with me? He is all-powerful and should already know by now that I have left City J." I said, "Yeah, I'm just messing with you." She fell. "That's her own fault. Thinking I'll pay her medical bills. Dream on." Barry was silent for a moment before speaking coldly. "You better never let me see you again in this lifetime." I gazed at the river view outside the window. Okay, that was the last phone call between us. But I've actually been hearing bits and pieces of news about him all along. He fought with Wallace, made up, and fought again. About 2 months later, Reva told me indignantly, "Barry seems smart, but how can he be so blind, mistaking a fish eye like Wallace for a pearl?" I saw her scolding a 5 or 6-year-old child on the street the other day. I told Barry about it, but he actually accused me of being jealous of Wallace and asked if you put me up to it. "I don't think you should like someone like him. He's not worth it." I smiled, then I told her, "There's something I forgot to tell you. I'm in a relationship." After arriving in Jiang City, I met Elton. There wasn't really any dramatic way we met. I had dinner at a Western restaurant and accidentally left my phone on the table when I left, and it was picked up by Elton. Later, by chance, we ran into each other a few more times. He is mature and steady, and has helped me a lot. He would accompany me to eat at street stalls, take walks with me, and listen to everything I've been through. He was puzzled. "You've liked this man for 5 years, and he hasn't noticed at all. How could that be?" Of course he knew, otherwise he wouldn't have called me that night. Every time he falls in love, we have this unspoken understanding. Neither of us disturbs the other. Only when he's heartbroken does he message me, saying, "Virginia, what are you up to?" I said, "It doesn't matter anymore." Elton looked at me and smiled. "Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore." Then we got together. It was him who confessed. "I'm 28 this year, never been in a relationship, have a clean background and no bad habits. My family introduced me to quite a few girls recently, but I didn't like any of them. But I kind of like you, want to give it a try?" I said, "Sure." That year's New Year's Day, I spent it at Elton's villa. Before this, I always knew he was well-spoken and came from a well-off family, but I never imagined he was this wealthy. The night was beautiful this evening. A light snow was falling. We stood by the floor-to-ceiling window and kissed. Just as the mood was heating up, his phone rang. Elton said sorry. He picked up his phone and went into the bedroom. About 10 minutes later, he came out. It was my cousin, calling to ask for my advice. "What's wrong?" "He has a buddy who broke up with his girlfriend and smashed everything in the house." "Is he a violent maniac?" I asked. Elton raised his hand and ruffled my hair, smiling. "Not really. He's young. Grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, and just acts a bit recklessly sometimes. But he's a good person. When we return to City J, I'll introduce you to him." I didn't think much of it. Yes, Elton is from City J. He came here for a similar reason as me, for work. The difference is, the number of zeros in his project budget is enough to dazzle my eyes. After dinner, Elton took me out to watch the fireworks. The moment the fireworks shot into the sky, I received 2 text messages from an unknown number. "I was wrong to blame you for what happened before. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Happy New Year." I didn't reply, deleted it directly. From the moment we parted on bad terms, I never intended to have any further contact with him. Elton watched my movements, raised an eyebrow, and spoke in a sour tone. "Did he send it?" I nodded. "Just a bunch of nonsense." Though, he laughed. "I'm going back to City J in a couple of days for some family matters. I'm a bit cold, so I lean into his embrace. All right, Elton." After Elton left, my work also started to get busy. That day, I was still working overtime at the company when a colleague came up from downstairs. there's a really handsome guy looking for you downstairs. On such a cold day, he's only wearing a shirt. Is he your boyfriend? Go take a look. I glanced at my phone. The power ran out and it shut down. This Elton, you came back and didn't even tell me. I hurried downstairs, still holding the scarf I had just finished knitting, ready to give to Elton. The man had his back to me. I hurried forward and called out to him happily. Phoo. The next moment, he turned around, and my voice abruptly halted. Barry, why is it you? Barry stepped forward and hugged me tightly. Virginia, I'm a bit speechless. How can this person go back on their word? He was the one who said it himself back then, telling me it would be best if I never showed up in front of him again in this lifetime. I took a deep breath, feeling a bit impatient. Let go. He remained silent, not releasing his grip. You've been ignoring me for a long time. I couldn't take it anymore. Get lost. Don't make me say it again. As I spoke, I broke free from his embrace, and the scarf in my hand fell to the ground. Barry, upon seeing this, his eyes lit up, and he quickly picked it up, wrapping it around his neck on his own. A while ago, I checked the surveillance footage from that day and finally realized it wasn't you who pushed me. I even broke up with Wallace over this matter. In the past, you used to knit me a scarf every winter. This year, even after I misunderstood you so badly, you still thought of me. I asked. What made you suddenly decide to check the surveillance footage? He didn't quite dare to look at me. I dreamed about you. You were crying and asking me why I didn't believe you. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But at that time, you really didn't believe me. Barry sighed. I've already come to find you. Let's just pretend it never happened. Okay. Before coming, I had already spoken with Mr. Ford from your company. He promised me that you could be transferred back early. Once you return, I'll have Wallace properly apologize to you. I looked at him, somewhat at a loss for words. He touched the scarf around his neck again. Thank you. I'll accept the gift. I glanced at the snowmelt and mud on it. It's dirty. Whatever. Just give it to him. I have other things to do. You can go now. Barry nodded quickly. All right. See you in half a month. Barry left, watching his retreating figure. I felt surprisingly calm. While waiting for the elevator, I received a message from Elton, arriving tomorrow night. My tense mood relaxed upon seeing this message. Okay, waiting for you. On the day I returned to City J, Mr. Ford specifically called me into his office. He said a lot of good things about Barry. Finally, he spoke with quite some emotion. Barry has treated you over these past few years, and I know a bit about it too. He has really put his heart into caring for you. So don't hold a grudge against him. Just talk things out openly. I remained silent, said nothing. That evening, Elton arranged a welcome dinner for me. I was busy with work and was a bit late when I arrived. As soon as I entered, I was about to call Elton when I saw Barry. Standing next to him was Wallace. When he saw me, Barry quickly came over. How did you get here? Did you know I was here and came specifically to find me? As he spoke, he waved at Wallace. Wallace, come over quickly and apologize to Virginia. From now on, you two will be like sisters. I was a bit speechless. Wallace walked over. He stared at me for a long moment. I'm sorry, but do you know what day it is? The head of the Fu family is going to introduce his girlfriend to everyone here. Since I've apologized, you'd better leave quickly. This kind of occasion isn't for just anyone to attend. I never expected that Elton and Barry actually knew each other. I shook my head. I'm not leaving. Barry frowned, thought for a moment, and said to me, Wallace is right. It's really not appropriate for you to be here today. Let me take you back. After saying that, he grabbed my arm and tried to lead me away. Just then, someone spoke up from behind. Barry, what are you doing holding my girlfriend's hand? Barry froze. I quickly broke free and ran to Elton's side. Elton. At the same time, someone nearby cursed loudly. Damn it. I took a look. It turned out to be someone I knew. Arthur. He stared at me blankly. Are you my cousin's girlfriend? As he spoke, he shifted his gaze among the few of us, scanning back and forth several times, before finally clutching his head. Holy crap. This is such a mess. But, cousin, do you remember when I said I wanted to introduce you to a girlfriend, and you told me to get lost? Elton is a smart person. He raised an eyebrow. That person. Is it Virginia? Yeah, what a coincidence. More than just a coincidence. It seems that the violent maniac on New Year's Eve was Barry. At the end of the banquet, Arthur found me. Sister-in-law, I was wrong about you before. I'm sorry. I shook my head. It's nothing. Barry was in a pretty bad mood tonight. He really wanted to talk to you, I said. Then please tell him there's nothing left for us to talk about. Elton stood by watching, still holding my coat. He didn't rush me, waiting until I finished speaking with Arthur before walking over to take my hand. Let's go. Only after we stepped out did he ask me. Barry, I nodded. I never expected that they actually knew each other. Elton smiled and looked at me very seriously. Missing out on you is his loss. As for that Wallace, at this point, his voice trailed off, and he said nothing more, only helping me put on my coat. It's all in the past. That same night, I heard that Barry and Wallace had broken up. After we left, their group found another place to drink for a while. Halfway through, someone dug up old photos of Wallace. Barry, doesn't she look familiar? I think you even had someone get her expelled from school back then. Who would have thought you'd end up together after all these years? This fate. Barry was stunned for a long time upon hearing this. The wine glass in his hand fell to the ground and shattered. He turned around and looked coldly at Wallace. Is it you? I've done so much for you. I spent a fortune on plastic surgery and skin whitening. Gradually making myself better, I found out what kind of girl you liked, and the first thing I did when I returned to the country was to get close to you. Barry was furious. So, all that playing hard to get was you scheming against me? Wallace nodded. Yes, so what? Barry stood up and slapped her in front of everyone. Barry, throughout his life, he cherished flowers the most. This was probably the first time he had ever hit a woman. He said, "Let's break up. You disgust me." After leaving the gathering, he came straight to my doorstep. As I returned from work and was about to unlock the door, someone grabbed my hand firmly. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Virginia." I turned around and saw Barry. He stared at me. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. If I had known she was that person, I would never have paid her any attention." I asked. "So?" He gripped my shoulders. "You're with Elton just to spite me, right? Break up with him. Let's get married." Okay. I could hardly believe my ears. He actually said he wanted to marry me. If it were before, hearing those words would have made me very happy. But now, there's actually no feeling left at all. I retorted. "Barry, what makes you think I would always be waiting for you in the same place?" Barry bent slightly, looking straight into my eyes. "You've liked me for a long time, haven't you? How could such long-standing feelings be easily let go? What Elton can give you, I can give you the same." I was about to speak when a light chuckle came from not far away. Barry, trying to steal someone from right under my nose. Barry's expression froze. The hallway was dimly lit. The two men standing in silent confrontation. Finally, it was Barry who spoke first. "I've known Virginia much longer than you have. You're just taking advantage of the situation." Elton looked up. "But she's my girlfriend now. She's liked me since high school, for several years." "How long have you two known each other?" "Yes, you've known each other for years. But in all that time, how many girlfriends have you had? Can you even count them all?" At that moment, Barry was speechless. Afterward, Barry came to see me a few more times, but I avoided him every time. Once, I really couldn't dodge him. We met face to face. He was still wearing the scarf he had picked up from the ground that day. I couldn't hold back any longer. "You know what? You really look like a clown right now. And this scarf wasn't even knitted for you in the first place." Barry remained silent for a moment, his hand resting on the scarf for a long time, yet he never took it off. He only asked, "Is this for him?" I nodded. "Yes." He looked up and smiled. "So that's how it is." This scene happened to be witnessed by Elton. Barry lost badly. After going upstairs, Elton said to me, "Don't worry, he won't come again." I looked at his forehead with concern and applied ointment for him. I know." But he suddenly turned his head. "Let's get married." I froze, the cotton swab in my hand falling to the ground. He laughed. "Otherwise, some people would always think about stealing me away. I have to nip that thought in the bud." After that, Barry indeed never came to see me again. He suddenly became indifferent to worldly desires. There wasn't a single girl around him. He also rarely went out to have fun anymore. I saw him once when Elton and I went out for a meal. He seemed much more aloof and merely gave me a subtle nod when he saw me, and then brushed past me. When Elton and I got engaged, Barry wasn't in the country, but that day, I received an anonymously delivered gift. It was a pink scarf. It looks a bit rough. The person knitting the scarf must have been very unskilled. There was also a card. It was the same style as the card I received that autumn. This time, he only wrote, "Happy engagement, Story 2, on the day of our traveling wedding. My fiancé left me at the airport for his childhood female friend and walked away. I happily pulled my luggage and went on the trip alone. Later, Hugo knelt down to admit his mistake and begged for forgiveness. I directly handed him an invitation. No need to apologize. You're welcome to attend the wedding banquet." Hugo stared fixedly at the invitation, standing there in a daze. "Evelyn, I'm sorry, Heather has a fever, and I need to go see her now." Hugo pushed his luggage and spoke anxiously. Turning around and preparing to leave the airport, holding the plane ticket in my hand, I stood at the boarding gate, almost thinking I had misheard. I held back my impatience and suppressed my discomfort as I said, "Hugo, do you know what day it is today? It's the day of our traveling wedding. Besides, if she has a fever, she can go to the hospital. You're not a doctor. Why does it have to be you? Doesn't she have any family or other friends?" Hugo looked at me in disbelief. "Evelyn, why are you so vicious? She's sick, and not only do you not feel sorry for her, but you're also cursing her. She's been my friend since we were kids." Don't think of her with such bad thoughts. I blocked his way as he tried to leave and stared at him with a piercing gaze. What if I say that if you walk out of this airport today, it's over between us? Hugo looked at me furiously, his eyes unable to hide his anger. Evelyn, is your heart made of stone? Heather is also your friend. How can you be so indifferent to her life and death? It was always like this. Whenever it came to his Heather, he would lose all sense of right and wrong. Since when could a fever be related to life and death? It was clearly just an excuse from Heather, a way to break us up. From the very beginning, whenever I had a date with Hugo, she would appear between us like a ghost from time to time. She would take the opportunity to ask Hugo to leave, but every time, no matter how clumsy her excuse was, Hugo would always go to her without a second thought. He left me in the cinema, the cafe, the amusement park, and even in a foreign country. I couldn't even count how many times Hugo had abandoned me for Heather. Let it end like this. I didn't want to hear the name Heather, which made my scalp tingle, anymore. All my retorts were stuck in my throat, and I couldn't say a word. I closed my eyes and stepped aside to make way. Hugo didn't hesitate at all. He pushed his luggage and rushed out of the airport. Passengers who haven't checked in yet, please hurry up, listening to the announcement at the airport. I wiped away the tear from the corner of my eye, pushed my luggage, and boarded the plane alone. From now on, I won't stay for anyone. I'll just be myself. Hugo, you've abandoned me for Heather 100 times. I won't give you this chance anymore. Goodbye. During the few years I dated Hugo, seeing him being overly intimate with Heather, I gently tried to persuade him. But every time, Hugo would look at me with a disdainful gaze and coldly tell me, Heather and I are innocent. If someone has such wild thoughts, it just shows that she has a dirty mind. Besides, if there was really something between us, how could you be here? After being sneered at by him like that several times, I shut up. I also told him that he cared about me less than he did about Heather, but he would always comfort me and tell me, I chose you because I like your generosity and kindness. You won't be jealous for no reason. Heather and I have a relationship like siblings. Don't be jealous for no reason. Now that I think about it, he never actually said he liked me. He just thought I was kind and tolerant enough to put up with his ambiguous relationship with Heather under the guise of being siblings. Now, I realize that I was just a cover-up for their complicated relationship. I remember that year, Hugo was on a business trip abroad. Since I was on vacation, I flew there. We planned to have a trip abroad and then come back. We had a great time during the first few days I arrived. Once, Hugo accidentally told Heather that he was with me. I knew that day that the trip was about to end. Sure enough, that night, Hugo wanted to fly back to the country overnight, saying that Heather was crying because a thief had broken into her house and she was scared. I kindly advised him, then tell her to call the police quickly. You're abroad now, and there's not much you can do. I was genuinely worried about her. But who knew that Hugo looked at me angrily and in disbelief. How can you be so heartless? She lives alone. How scared she must be. I need to go and accompany her now. I patiently continued to persuade him. It's the middle of the night. Just rest first. It's daytime in our country now, and there shouldn't be any problems. Can you go back tomorrow? But Hugo shook me off and flew to Heather's side overnight. The next day, I saw the Instagram moments that Heather posted. Fortunately, I have you. Whenever I need you, you can fly across the ocean to be by my side. The photo showed her lying in Hugo's arms looking wronged, and Hugo was comforting her with a gentle gaze. I closed my eyes and rested on the plane. When I woke up, the plane had already landed. After getting off the plane, I turned on my phone and saw dozens of missed calls. There were calls from my parents, Hugo's parents, and our mutual friends. I scrolled down and saw an unexpected name, Hugo. I selectively replied to my best friend Juliet on Instagram, telling her not to worry. Then I called my parents back, and my mom picked up the phone quickly. Evelyn, Hugo said he had something to do and didn't board the plane. Later, we found out that you had already boarded the plane. Why didn't you wait for Hugo? Are you two okay? I heard from Hugo's tone that he didn't seem very happy. My mom was still chattering, and I directly interrupted her. Mom, on the day of our traveling wedding, Hugo left me just because Heather had a fever. He has given up on me for Heather so many times. I don't want to wait for him anymore. I think a solo trip is quite nice now. My mom sighed. You did the right thing this time. You should really give him the cold shoulder. Let him know how important you are. What he did on such an important day is really outrageous. I smiled. Mom, I don't plan to just give him the cold shoulder. I've decided to leave him. Let him and Heather be entangled with each other. There was a sudden silence on the other end of the phone, and then my dad picked up the phone. Evelyn, are you serious? Marriage is a big deal and can't be taken lightly. You two have been dating for a few years, and you were planning to get the marriage certificate after the trip. I said firmly, I don't want him anymore. I'm glad we haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet. My dad let out a sigh of relief and then firmly supported me. It's good that you've made up your mind. We've always been worried about you because you seemed so wronged in this relationship, just because you liked him. We didn't say anything. Now that you've thought it through, your mom and I support you. Our daughter is so excellent. You'll be better off without this scumbag. We chatted about some family matters for a while before hanging up the phone. My eyes were red, and I was really grateful to have such supportive and reasonable parents who always cared about me sincerely and supported me when I needed it. I decided to have a good time here for a while and then go back to deal with the matter between me and Hugo. When I arrived at the hotel, it was the one I had chosen after a long time and liked the most. It had a big floor-to-ceiling window facing Ojai Lake. And it was extremely romantic. But now, looking at the red roses spread all over the bed, I felt a bit uncomfortable. I asked the staff to come in and clean it up before lying down to rest. At this moment, Hugo called again. As soon as I answered, his impatient voice came through. Evelyn, I was just delayed by something. We can go on a trip together next time. Is it necessary to make things so embarrassing? When are you going to change this petty temper of yours? Why can't you be as sensible and well-behaved as Heather? You should fly back immediately. Or else, I chuckled and replied. Or else what? Hugo's impatient and threatening voice came through. Or else, don't even think about getting married. Remember, we haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet. You're not my wife yet. Isn't it a bit too early for you to act so difficult? I really wondered what I had loved about him all these years. I must have been out of my mind. Heather's voice also came from the other end, in a fake and coquettish tone. Brother Hugo, did I make Evelyn misunderstand again because of me? Let me explain to her. It's all my fault. I got sick at the wrong time. I won't trouble you anymore in the future. I felt like vomiting when I heard that. Hugo started to coax her patiently and gently again. Heather, don't be excited. You're still sick. It's not your fault. It's someone being unreasonable. Be good and don't cry. I was too lazy to entangle with this wretched pair anymore. It was really ruining my mood for the trip. Mr. Hugo, thank you for reminding me that we haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet. Just as well, you think I'm not as understanding as your Heather. Well, you're unmarried, and she's unmarried too. You two are a perfect match. Just don't come to bother me anymore. Hugo suddenly became furious and roared into the phone. What did you say, Evelyn? Don't slander the family bond between me and Heather. Come back immediately and apologize to Heather, and I might still forgive you. Otherwise, don't even think about marrying me. I ignored his crazy words, hung up the phone directly, and blocked his number. By the way, my ears were much quieter instantly. But I forgot to block Heather's Instagram. She started her act of being fake and sweet again. She first sent me a photo of Hugo sleeping beside her hospital bed. Evelyn, I'm sorry. On your big day, Brother Hugo came to take care of me. Actually, I told him that I was fine and could go to the hospital by myself. But he just didn't trust me and insisted on giving up the traveling wedding with you to come and take care of me. The next time you and Brother Hugo have a traveling wedding, I definitely won't disturb you. I can only borrow Brother Hugo for now. In the past, when I heard such words from her, I would go to Hugo to argue, but every time, facing the wronged-looking Heather, Hugo would always blame me for not being generous enough and say that I was being unreasonable. Now, she was trying to make me go and have a fight with Hugo again, but I wouldn't do that anymore. I directly retorted, are you stupid and can't understand what I'm saying? I don't want Hugo anymore, since you like picking up trash so much. You can keep him and be together forever. We're both old foxes. Stop acting like this in front of me. Save your fake act for your brother Hugo. After all, he likes watching it. Then, before she could reply, I blocked her on Instagram as well. I felt much more comfortable. I walked to the balcony, felt the warm breeze, and it was extremely pleasant. I also took photos and posted them on Instagram Moments to check in, and then replied to my friends' greetings. I didn't expect to meet Hugo in the small courtyard. He appeared at my door looking haggard and tired. He still thought I couldn't leave him. Instead of apologizing, he looked at me as he always did when he thought someone was being unreasonable and accused me. Heather has a really bad fever this time. Don't be unreasonable. Okay, I've come to find you. Once you've cooled down, come back with me. After he finished speaking, I gently replied, what for? He continued. Go back and apologize to Heather, and I'll forgive you for this. How could you say such things to Heather? She was so wronged that she cried. I sneered and looked at him with disdain. Why are you looking at me like that? And what did you mean by that sentence you said to her? I didn't react at first and looked at him in confusion. Hugo pursed his lips, looking a bit angry. You said you don't want me anymore, and you even wished. Oh, it was about that. I remembered. He had abandoned me so many times because of Heather. I must have been out of my mind to stay with him. It's already too late for me to wake up. I looked at him expressionlessly and didn't want to entangle with him anymore. Can't you see my attitude? I don't love you anymore, and I sincerely wish you and Heather well. Is there anything wrong with that? Hugo looked at me as if he was hurt and started his act again. I told you that Heather and I don't have that kind of relationship. I just consider her as my sister. Don't be like this, okay? I looked at him and didn't want to discuss this topic with him anymore. I don't want to know what kind of relationship you two have. It has nothing to do with me now. Stop polluting my ears. Then, I looked at him strangely and decided to disgust him a bit more. Why don't you tell me who you like, and I'll wish you well again. I have the magnanimity to wish my ex well, as long as you don't affect my mood for the trip anymore. Hugo lowered his head and continued to explain feebly. You know that's not what I meant. You know who I've always loved. Why are you trying to hurt me? My goodness, with that wronged look, if others saw it, they might think I was the heartless one. I looked at him sarcastically. Sorry, Mr. Hugo. I really don't know who you like. Hugo grabbed my arm and tried to explain desperately. Evelyn, you know that I've always loved you. I've even agreed to marry you. Isn't that enough to prove my feelings? I pulled his arm away in disgust and patted the place where he had touched me. I find your so-called love disgusting. Stay away from me in the future. You're revolting. After saying that, I was about to close the door, but Hugo held onto the door crack tightly and wouldn't let me close it. I really didn't understand him. It was clearly his fault. He was unfaithful in the relationship, yet he could act as if I had abandoned him. Evelyn, are you still angry that I left you? How about this? Let's go on a traveling wedding abroad. Okay, I'll plan the itinerary. You just need to tell me where you want to go. Okay, I'll make it up to you with a better trip. Hugo babbled at the door, attracting the attention of the people around who were craning their necks to peek. So, I let go of the door and let Hugo in. Hugo silently followed me. Hugo, you're not the type to be persistent. Does Heather know you're like this now? I mocked him sarcastically. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. His phone suddenly rang. It was the specially marked ringtone for Heather. I looked at him with disdain and spoke in a calm tone. Answer the phone first. You used to never take more than 3 seconds to answer Heather's call. What if it's something life-threatening and she needs you to go back and help? Hugo ignored the sarcasm in my words and explained to me with rare patience. I've already told her friend that if there's anything wrong, someone will help. So Heather has other friends she can turn to for help besides Hugo. Before coming to find me, he could have settled her down first. Then why did he always abandon me and go to Heather in the past, when we were abroad? He wouldn't even settle me down first before going back to the country. It's really ironic. Even now, thinking about it, my heart still aches densely, and I feel sorry for my past self. Hugo looked at me nervously, pursed his lips, and a trace of guilt appeared in his eyes. He wanted to reach out and hold my hand, but I slapped it away. I won't get entangled with my ex. I calmly glanced at him and indulged in my own memories. Hugo, I don't want to be stuck in this strange cycle involving 3 people anymore. I don't know if you've noticed, but every time I need you, Heather also needs you to do her a favor, big or small, at the same time. And you always say that Heather is innocent and needs care, then you leave for her without looking back, saying that I'm strong and that you believe I can solve things on my own. I looked at him calmly and continued. Do you remember once during the spring festival, you said you would visit my parents? That day, my parents prepared a table full of dishes, but they waited until the food got cold and still didn't see you, and you didn't even make a phone call to explain. And me. I saw you in Heather's Instagram moments. You were on vacation with her in Hainan. She leaned affectionately on your shoulder, and you had your arm around her waist. And what was I doing? I cried myself to sleep with a wet pillow on the spring festival day. Hugo's face gradually changed, and he lowered his head to explain. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I didn't know you cared so much about this. I've explained it to you before. She said her boyfriend broke up with her and left her alone by the seaside. She said she was so lonely that she didn't want to live anymore. So I went to accompany her, afraid that something might happen to her. I waved my hand to interrupt him. Then why didn't you think of asking her friends to accompany her at that time? Why did it have to be you? And you stood up my family. You only thought that she might do something stupid. But why didn't you think about how I felt when I was facing my family alone? My tone was very soft, and there was no hint of any emotion in it. But as Hugo listened, his face turned pale, and his eyes turned slightly red. When you left without hesitation at the airport that day, I actually felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I finally don't have to struggle in this strange cycle of 3 people anymore. I thank you for firmly choosing her. Which made me firm in my decision not to look back. I stood up and motioned for him to leave. He stumbled a few steps and grabbed my hand. Evelyn, give me one more chance. I know I was wrong. Really, I'll change. I didn't abandon you. The person I love in my heart has always been you. He held my hand tightly, and I struggled hard but couldn't break free. Only then did Hugo realize that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum, but I really intended to leave him. He looked at me pleadingly, his eyes red and wet. I had never seen him show such an expression in front of me before. I tried hard to break his grip, but he held on tightly and wouldn't let go. His expression was like that of a helpless and abandoned little woman. "Evelyn, don't leave me. I can't live without you. Please believe me. I will definitely change." I looked at him expressionlessly. "But the one who left first was you, wasn't it, every time?" I looked down at Hugo's hands with disgust. How could someone who had hurt others so many times still say that he loved her with such emotion? Hugo lowered his head, as if burned by my gaze, and slowly released my hand. He leaned against the wall dejectedly and said helplessly and sorrowfully, "I'm sorry, Evelyn. I won't do this again. Please forgive me, okay?" Hugo smiled, his heart lifted, and he stared at me deeply. I looked up and met his gaze calmly, and said seriously, "No, I won't forgive you." After this incident with Hugo, I didn't feel like continuing my trip anymore, so I flew back home. After resting at home for one night, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar figure on the balcony. "Hugo." My mom gave me a meaningful look and then secretly told me, "He's been standing outside the door for a long time. I don't know who he's trying to show it to. Just ignore him." I pretended not to see him, washed my hands, started eating, and then went back to my room to rest again. Even after the light in my bedroom was turned off, that figure outside the door, still standing there like a statue in the dim light, I went to bed feeling annoyed and covered my head, trying not to think about it. The next day, as soon as I went out, he followed me. I had a bit of a headache. I thought I had made my words clear enough to him that day, but I didn't expect he still wouldn't let go. I stared at him maliciously. I never knew that Hugo could be so persistent and annoying. Hugo didn't care about my malicious sarcasm at all and immediately tried to please me. "As long as you can forgive me, Evelyn, I will definitely prove my feelings for you. You're more annoying than an adhesive plaster." I sent a message to my best friend Juliet. Juliet directly gave me a suggestion. "Why don't you find a male friend to pretend to be your new lover and make him give up?" I also thought this was feasible, but after looking around, I couldn't find a suitable person. "If you don't mind, I can ask my cousin to help you." I said I would think about it. 20 minutes later, a SUV stopped beside me, and a sunny and handsome boy got out of the car and walked towards me, his eyes full of cunning. "Honey, I was just a little late. Why didn't you wait for me to pick you up?" I looked at him blankly. Just as I was about to say he had the wrong person, he leaned down and whispered in my ear, "Sister Juliet asked me to come." I naturally took his arm and was about to get in the car with him, but Hugo rushed over. "Evelyn, who is he? I won't let you go with him." The boy gently pried Hugo's fingers off one by one and said with a smile, "I've had a crush on Sister Evelyn for a long time. Thank you for not cherishing her," which allowed my crush to see the light of day. "I will cherish Sister Evelyn. I already have a boyfriend. Please stop pestering me." After getting in the car, I found out that his name was George, Juliet's cousin, who had just returned from abroad recently. I watched Hugo's dejected figure getting smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. Somehow, I felt an inexplicable sense of pleasure in my heart. In the past, it was always me who stubbornly held onto Hugo and wouldn't let him go to Heather, but he would always look at me disappointedly and say that I had no empathy. Now that I've let go and allowed him to chase after her freely, he's pretending to be affectionate here instead. "Thank you." "Then how are you going to thank me?" I didn't expect him to say that. I was just being polite actually. "How about I treat you to a meal?" "Okay." Are people who have stayed abroad always so straightforward? As soon as we arrived at the restaurant, a beautiful girl with curly hair walked towards George. After seeing me behind him, her face changed a bit, but she still smiled and said, "George, what a coincidence. Treat me to a meal, will you?" George frowned, took a cautious look at me, and then waved his hand to refuse her. "I'm on a date with my girlfriend today. It's not convenient for us to have a meal together." After that, he pulled me to a seat by the window and sat down. Then he took the initiative to explain to me, "She's a neighbor of mine. We're not really familiar with each other usually." I found it a bit funny. "You and I are just pretending to be a couple. There's no need to explain it to me." George looked at me, and I looked back at him openly. I realized that I really didn't care, and his fingertips turned slightly pale, looking at his indescribable gaze. I suddenly had a strange feeling, seeing how cautious he was around me. I thought that Hugo would never be like this in the past. Every time he went to Heather, he took it for granted. If I tried to stop him, I would be considered unreasonable and petty. George was really a competent boyfriend. He had been cooperating with me very well recently. When I had a meal with him, Hugo, like a ghost, sat at the table opposite us. In the middle of the meal, George received a phone call from his neighbor. His brows furrowed deeply, and his face didn't look good either. "It's not appropriate for you to come to me for this kind of thing. If you're drunk, you should call your parents. I've also told you that I have a girlfriend, and I'm with my girlfriend right now. I don't want to make her sad. I hope you won't call me for this kind of thing again in the future. I hope you know the boundaries between ordinary neighbors." He deliberately spoke loudly so that Hugo could hear. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Hugo. He hung his head dejectedly, and I couldn't tell what he was thinking. That's when Heather walked in. She saw me and George at a glance, and a look of joy appeared on her face. Then she walked towards Hugo. "Brother Hugo, you're really here. Why didn't you answer my call?" "I've been looking for you for a long time." Hugo looked up at her and said coldly, "What's the matter?" Heather sat down next to him and coquettishly acted like a spoiled child. "I've been transferred to the photography team now and need to know how to use a professional camera. I'm not used to learning from others. Can you teach me?" I suddenly became interested, put down my spoon, and looked at Hugo. I happened to meet his gaze, and I gave a sarcastic smile. Hugo used to always say that Heather was innocent and easily deceived by others, so he had to do everything for her himself to feel at ease. But this time, Hugo was a bit different. First, he looked at me with a guilty expression, and then his eyes seemed to be expecting something. George couldn't help but look at me. "He can't be expecting you to stop him, can he?" I smiled and teased him. "He's an insignificant person. Why should I care about what he does?" My words reached Hugo's ears, and he immediately slumped. Seeing this, Heather turned her target towards me. "Sister Evelyn, Brother Hugo and I have a relationship like siblings. It's only right for us to help each other, don't you think?" I nodded and agreed with her. "You're right, you're your brother Hugo's most beloved sister. So of course he should care about you and take care of you in everything." Heather looked at me triumphantly after hearing this and then turned to Hugo. "Brother Hugo, I told you that Sister Evelyn is the most generous. She definitely won't be jealous of you taking care of me." But impatience gradually appeared in Hugo's eyes. "I have something to do recently. You should find someone else to help you with this." Heather didn't expect Hugo to refuse. Her eyes widened, filled with tears. And she looked so pitiful that anyone would feel sorry for her. "Brother Hugo, did someone say something to you that made you treat me like this? You know that I only trust you." As she spoke, she was about to throw herself into Hugo's arms. Hugo directly dodged and kept looking at me from time to time. Heather missed her target and saw Hugo looking at me with that expression. She was about to turn her anger on me. I sensed that something was wrong. I didn't want to be the target of these two unreasonable people, so I pulled George and left. Heather didn't want me to leave and was about to chase after us. But Hugo stopped her. "Evelyn, don't leave. The matter isn't resolved. Come back. You just can't stand Brother Hugo being nice to me and are deliberately trying to drive a wedge between us." I ignored them. But later I heard that Hugo went crazy at that time. He wanted to leave, but Heather wouldn't let him go and kept crying to him. Hugo couldn't stand it anymore and pushed her to the ground. Heather's back was stabbed by glass shards, and there was blood everywhere. Hugo was also injured. When Hugo's father called me, his voice was filled with pleading. "Evelyn, Uncle knows that it's Hugo's fault that you two separated. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I just hope you can come and see him once." "Okay." Hugo's father had always been very kind to me. When my relationship with Hugo was tense, he always took my side. I couldn't refuse his request. I still agreed to go and see Hugo one more time. When George heard about it, he insisted on sending me there and then pestered me to go and see Hugo with him. Hugo was lying in the hospital bed. His eyes lit up when he saw me, but the light in his eyes faded when he saw George behind me. I pretended not to notice and greeted him politely and distantly. "Uncle Hugo said you're not feeling well, so I came to see you. I've already let go of the past. And I hope you can do the same." Then I put down the fruits and flowers. Hugo stretched out his hand tremblingly, and when he opened his palm, there was a diamond ring inside. It was the ring I used to say I liked, and I said it would be our wedding ring in the future. But Hugo didn't buy it for me at that time. He said he had a lot of things to deal with and would buy it after we got back from the trip and got the marriage certificate. Now, looking at this wedding ring that I had longed for, I didn't have any feelings for it anymore. Hugo's voice was very soft. "This is the ring you told me you liked before. I've bought it. It's in your size. Evelyn, can you?" I knew what he was going to say and raised my hand first to show him my ring finger. It was a diamond ring that George had put on me. That day, his mother insisted that he go on a blind date with the daughter of a family friend, and he couldn't refuse, so he dragged me along to play the part. Although I thought it was inappropriate, but he had helped me so many times, so I reluctantly agreed. George put the ring on my hand in front of everyone. Today, when I was going to see Hugo, George insisted that I wear it. After seeing my ring, Hugo didn't say the last sentence in the end. Before leaving, I told Hugo, "I hope you won't disturb my life anymore in the future, and don't make your parents worry." In the following days, I was occupied with work and never thought of Hugo again. It was George who came to see me every now and then and brought me delicious food. Every time he came to the office, he always made all the female colleagues in the office light up with interest and be eager to get to know him. Since he called me Sister Evelyn, everyone thought we were relatives, and female colleagues often came to ask me about his hobbies. When we were having a meal together, a female colleague came over shyly. "Mr. Gu, do you have a girlfriend?" George was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and pointed at me. "This is my girlfriend." The female colleague was stunned, and then her face turned red as she said, "But you call her sister." George smiled brightly and said without blushing, "We're in a relationship where the woman is older than the man." This made the female colleague apologize to me repeatedly and then run away as if fleeing. I gave George a glare. "Didn't you say that once the matter was solved, we would go back to our own lives? What do you mean by this? How am I supposed to face my colleagues? Don't always use me as a shield. It doesn't matter for people outside, but for my colleagues in the company, how am I supposed to get along with them in the future?" I looked at him with a bit of annoyance, but he smiled as brightly as the June sun, both shy and flamboyant. "So now that the matter is solved, I want to ask you if you can seriously consider me." George confessed his love to me. My heart was pounding, and my ears started to turn red. Actually, I had already sensed his feelings for me, but since he never made it clear, I just pretended not to notice. I nodded and agreed to him, and we started dating seriously. George made me feel truly loved and favored in a relationship. He always put me first in everything, maintained a proper distance from the opposite sex, and cared about my feelings. Once, he got drunk at a business dinner and accidentally let it slip that he had been secretly in love with me for a long time. At that time, in the back alley of the school, I saw a group of students surrounding and bullying a male classmate. I couldn't stand it, so I picked up a stick by the roadside and rushed over. "I'm his sister. It's wrong for you to bully your classmate like this. I've already called the police, so you just wait for your parents to be called." When that group of people heard me scaring them like that, they fled in all directions. I pulled up the male classmate who was beaten black and blue on the ground and patted my chest, saying, "I'm Evelyn from Senior 3. If anyone bullies you in the future, come to me and I'll help you." He said that at that time, I stood in the light like an angel, always shining on him. Later, I went to college, and he never saw me again. Once, he saw my photo on his cousin Juliet's phone and found out that I was Juliet's best friend. Since then, he often asked Juliet about me. Later, when he mustered up the courage to pursue me, I already had a boyfriend. He went abroad feeling heartbroken. Later, when he heard that I had broken up with Hugo, he immediately flew back. He told himself that he must not miss this opportunity again. Later, he asked Juliet to act as a matchmaker. And Juliet thought he was more reliable than Hugo, so she agreed. I called Juliet, and she immediately confessed that instead of watching me make the wrong choice in a relationship, it was better to have me in the family. She praised how good George was. For all these years, he hadn't had a girlfriend and had always been thinking of me. When he heard that I was going to get married, he was so sad that he drank all night. Later, when he heard that I had broken up with Hugo, he drank all night again. I asked her why. Juliet told me that George was afraid that I would be too sad and couldn't hold up, so he was sad for me. After hearing this, my eyes turned red. It turned out that in a place where I couldn't see, someone had been secretly in love with me like this. It turned out that I could also have a boyfriend who cared about me with all his heart. Half a year later, we were ready to get married. We chose the hotel that I had always liked for our wedding. She always took the opportunity to ask Hugo to leave. However, every time, no matter how clumsy her excuse was, Hugo would go to her without even thinking. George said that he wanted me to have a happy wedding without any regrets. We happily prepared for the wedding, and finally, the wedding day arrived. George and I stood at the entrance of the auditorium to greet the guests. I saw a familiar figure walking towards us from the opposite banquet hall, Hugo. He was so thin that he almost didn't look like himself, and the suit he was wearing didn't fit him at all. He looked at me affectionately from a distance and walked towards me step by step. He knelt down on one knee, looking extremely affectionate, holding a diamond ring in his hand. "Evelyn, will you marry me? I've also prepared the wedding you want." I calmly handed him an invitation. "I won't attend your wedding. This is my invitation. You're welcome to attend my wedding with George." Hugo fell to the ground in pain, and he almost couldn't hold the invitation in his hand. I took George's arm and walked into the hall of our wedding. I heard that later, Heather pestered Hugo, saying that she wanted to marry him and that the wedding was already set up, and it would be a waste not to use it, and she didn't mind, but Hugo angrily drove her away, and she left the hotel in a sorry state. Hugo couldn't stand being pestered by her, so he went abroad. Heather couldn't get used to the lack of Hugo's meticulous help over the years. Once, when she was accompanying a client at a business dinner, she fell back into her old ways. She sobbed and acted coquettishly towards the client, saying that she couldn't drink. The client, who was drunk at that time, started to molest her. She was so scared that she wanted to run away, but she was still forcefully insulted by the client. Afterwards, the client scolded and said that it was clearly she who seduced him, so why did it seem like he was forcing himself on her? Only then did Heather know that she should have regretted it. Not everyone was as upright as Hugo. Later, Heather was threatened by this client to be his mistress. In the end, she was chased and beaten by the client's wife. Since the client was a big shot, This incident made it to the hot search. Heather's information was also dug up, in the end. She couldn't stand the attention from the outside world and committed suicide by jumping off a building one night.